Hello, I'm John Reynolds and welcome to Extraordinary Life Stories. On this episode, I'm talking with industry disruptor and entrepreneur Oliver Chapman. Oliver is the visionary founder of supply chain specialists OCI Group, which is the fastest growing company in the UK. OCI received the prestigious award of Overall Scale-Up Business Award in 2022. I want to know more about Oliver's entrepreneurial journey and what influences and experiences shaped his direction in business. So let's get into it. Oliver, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me, who is Oliver Chapman?
That's a hard question. I'm still figuring it out myself.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Take me back to a young Oliver, starting out, making kind of decisions on what you're going to do, early influences from a career point of view.
I mean, I was just reflecting on a photo I had which was taken at my grandparents' house, and I'm there in a little plastic toy car on the phone with a waistcoat on, smashing deals. 2.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And still doing it now?
Yeah, I guess so. And definitely into my cars, right?
Yeah. And an entrepreneur.
I wouldn't title myself as an entrepreneur. I guess that's something that other people might title oneself. But I've certainly always been very enterprising and wanted to come up with different ideas to make a few pennies and top up the pocket money.
Take me through that then. So a young Oliver that's ultimately coming into career age, what did you do?
Tried to set up my first business at 11. We got a family computer, Windows 98, right? And that would have made me 11 because we got it in 99. I found someone locally who was selling like last year's software. So like Britannia Encyclopedia from last year or FIFA 98. Yeah, it's 99. And we just got this new computer. So it came with a printer, it came with like all the stuff, like it was a full suite. And in my mind, I was like, well, this is really cool because the price of these goods from last year are like a quarter of the price of the current year. So I went to town, like making this catalog on this computer because we had all of the facilities to do that. And I could print it. And I did all this hard work, and the idea was that I'd then go and distribute it through local houses and things, try and get some orders in. It didn't matter to us back then whether you're playing on the latest FIFA game or whatever. And also being at that age, it was very difficult to get in the car and go to a store like PC World and buy a game, right? Because I'm a kid. So my idea was to then basically give access to the market for a much cut price product. And I think there's still like £45 for a piece of software back then. And I could sell it for about half the price just last year's, and nobody seemed to care. Apart from my mum, in this little story, if I was going to finish it, she kiboshed my plan. And she explained that I was very pleased at presenting it. I was like, Mum, I've got a business and I'm going to make some money and that's going to be fantastic. She said, after I explained it to her, Oliver, there's not a chance that you're doing this. Why? Obviously, this makes sense, right? We've got all the kit, we've got all the tech, we've got everything to do it. We're in the era of the 90s, so there's hotlines like customer service. We bought our computer from Gateway because of the customer service hotline. If you got stuck on it, you could call someone up. She said, so what's going to happen with you and your new business, Oliver, little Ollie, was we're going to get Mrs. Smith calling and saying, oh, hello, I've got a problem with Britannia Encyclopedia. Can I speak to your customer services manager, please? And my mum's then going to give the phone to like an 11-year-old kid with me in a squeaky voice going, oh, hi, how can I help? It's just like, it's not going to work at all. And let's not even go into warranties and repairs and this and that. And she stomped on that idea. But so
that was your first business failure.
That was my first business baby. It was my first business failure, maybe.
Yeah. Well, you weren't allowed to see it through. But it was there. You challenged me on the entrepreneur things, but you were trying to be innovative. You were spotting opportunity. And what's quite interesting about that as well is actually the I'm going to kind of refer as the supply chain element of what you're excelling in, and let's come to that. Was also part of the reason why you weren't allowed to pursue it, because what happens when this phone call's made and who's going to pick up the phone and so on. So where did the vision come for what ultimately is OCI Group?
What's unique about OCI, and it's hard to sort of articulate this, but OCI is really an extension of my good self and what I've been doing since I was like 14.
Just culmination of.
Yeah. Like when I was 14, I was importing products from China 14, 15, well, I mean, there's 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, all the way through. You know, I think products from David Beckham's latest hair product, or when GHDs came out, you know, the hair straighteners.
Yeah, the straighteners, yeah.
I went and they were very expensive, 250 quid. And I went and got a set made that were a very similar spec, actually the same spec, but just non-branded, had them manufactured and imported them. I think it was like 14, 15. And I was basically...
selling these at school?
Yeah, selling them at school. In fact, a journalist asked me a question the other day. And they said, so are you basically that guy that instead of running a tuck shop at school to make some money, you were literally in import-export with China? So OCI is like a continuation of those sorts of trading things, and I've dabbled in all sorts of stuff. You know, I've always just seen little opportunities where I think that I can, you know, maybe add some value to a potential customer or whatever, and try to capitalize on those. That's run its course all the way through. So, you know, whether it's those products which obviously weren't part of OCI.
No, but they were the basis of the ideas and the relationships and the mindset.
Absolutely. And you know, even through uni, I was importing cosmetics like MAC makeup because you couldn't get it so easily. So I was importing from the US and selling it online and to like other students and stuff at campus. And I
bet there's plenty of people that will remember you for that. Probably even watching now. That I remember.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe. I don't really think of it like that, but
it was just sitting here now. OCI Group is the fastest growing company in the UK, third fastest in Europe, according to Financial Times, which is serious stats. You can say from the lad that was going around school working out what the deals are. So actually, talk to me about some of the deals you're doing, because they sound like telephone numbers from some of the conversations we're having.
You get a bit desensitized to doing multi-billion-dollar deals all the time. It's kind of weird. In fact, actually, a problem that I've got is I don't have a calculator with a screen large enough. No joke, it's a pain.
But you found something there that ultimately, by doing what you clearly enjoyed, and I'm going to say that was a passion of yours, to actually, you know, try and find something or a need and then fulfill it. And on a global scale, so clearly you're being inundated with big telephone numbers that don't put on the calculator. Why was that not being done before?
So we do things totally differently. So, you know, OCI, I started in trade. I was like hands-on guy. I'm basically from the streets, but I'm not from the streets. I mean, my parents looked after me incredibly nicely, and you know, they were comfortably well off, but we were far from rich. I was fortunate enough my parents invested in my education, which I'm forever grateful of. But that sort of gave me the opportunity to see what the potential is, because there were some very, very wealthy people there. OCI became a company which saw opportunities from a trade angle, where we can work with other organizations to solve their problems. So I went from trading, trying to sell, actually sustainables and recyclable materials was my absolute passion when I was first getting into like big boy business, if you like. You know, I found a solution for, instead of putting old rubber and tires in the ground in landfill, which pay the government a lot of tax to do, I sort of created and made a market in India where they would turn them back into oil, but it was prohibited to import this product back then because they wanted to look after the local manufacturers of rubber. But I just couldn't see how it was like realistic for people to pay to landfill when there's a market turning this product into oil. So we worked very hard and managed to make that possible with the regulations. And well, now the whole world's tires go to India apart from the US, and they didn't before.
So you were a trailblazer there. Again,
well, yeah, I guess
you're very humble with how you.
I don't really like to go on about that sort of thing.
Really, no, I like that. And actually, there's a connection here where actually that's making a really positive impact on the planet and sustainability. But how we met as well through John Caldwell, through the Philanthropy. You're part of the Life Changers Circle, and the connection we had a couple of weeks ago where someone you passionately wanted to help achieve, something, achieve their dream. Actually, where's that come from? Because there's a real kindness to you. There's a real drive to not just be successful in business, but you seem to want to give a lot back.
Yeah, and it's a great point. Like, it's just something that I've started focusing on more since I've developed and matured as a business person. But with OCI being able to exponentially grow other corporates using our trade knowledge on the street rather than go to a bank who doesn't help you, I realized that actually there are a lot of transferable skills that can be utilized and deployed in other areas. I didn't know this before for the last 18, 24 months. And so the capability to drive and grow an organization can actually be deployed into a charity to drive huge growth. We're in discussions with UNICEF about their supply chain and how to help them with theirs. It's early days, it's not committed, but we really want to support UNICEF as an organization, and of course Cordwell Children. I describe it like this: when giving your mum or dad, depending on circumstances, but in my case, my mum, a Christmas present, I was really excited about giving, right? You know, you get this feeling and it's like, oh, I can't wait to give this gift to mum and she'll love it. Oh, wow, great. Being able to give back to children that maybe aren't or weren't as privileged as myself is like giving that gift to mum, but 10,000 times more powerful. And that is probably like the only true place I felt real fulfillment. Making cash, that's great and all, you need that to live and exist. But actually being able to change someone's life and watch someone, you know, by buying a wheelchair that enables them to have a hobby, have a job, have a career, go hiking at the weekends. It's actually like really moving, life-changing things that you can do.
100%. How old are you?
I'm 35.
Serious maturity for where you're at, and the fact that you're right now fastest growing company in the UK, making money, but actually genuinely, I'm going to use your word, fulfillment from giving back and helping. Why do more people that are making money not do it?
It's a point that's very hard to...
That's a harsh question.
It's a harsh question.
But you know what I mean? There's people that seem unhappy. That's probably where I'm coming from. There's people that seem unhappy that are worth a lot of money. You know, we both know John. You can see the passion.
Yeah, and full respect to John Cordwell with what he's doing.
But I see it with you. It's the whole, I've made money, I'm making money, but actually that's not what's making me happy, to use that word. The fulfillment is, and I can imagine a situation that's potentially happening all the time, let alone something's going to happen where you're looking forward to making somebody change their life.
Yeah, and that's really what, you know, human beings, are, in my opinion, should all be about. And I don't really understand why there aren't more people giving to a charity. I'm not the richest person, you know, one knows by a long shot. Like, you know, OCI is doing very well. It grew tremendously, and we got that accolade in 22, right? But yeah, I unfortunately, it's probably just down to different mindsets. Okay, what people want to do. Is it greed? Or is and looking after oneself, or is it actually recognizing that you can make a difference? And for me, you know, a successful business is a business as a well-oiled machine that just continues, you know, doing its thing, and actually being able to change other people's lives, which we actually do with business, because maybe if we're growing an organization, driving them with the supply chain restructuring that we do, that's sort of supporting them, but then being able to deploy those skill sets, those non-corporate, to a non-corporate level, it's just like hugely satisfying. I would actively encourage others, and I would like to follow in the footsteps, you know, with, in fact, setting my own foundation up actually, and doing the type of work that John does, and supporting with John and Caldwell Children, and then more and more. Because I think that if you're in a privileged enough position to be able to actually make an impact on someone's life, then that's what's a game changer.
If you want to get physically fit, you go to the gym. You don't see results straight away. It becomes a habit. And actually, there's potentially a culture that's in business where it's this: make as much money as possible, and it's mine. And everyone's a threat. Perhaps there's an element that you will influence actually through this program, through what you're doing, leading by example, and John as well, where just starting and actually experiencing it and going, this, I'm not saying it's to feel good, but actually we all are looking for validation and trying to be happy one way or another. If you've made millions, hundreds of thousands, billions, and you're not happy, but also, why not try it? See how it feels. See where that goes.
That's a really interesting point. Why not
just
try
start the habit? It could be something small, and it goes back. Actually, you said it to gifting. I remember that feeling the first Christmas where it wasn't just about receiving. I remember having some pocket money, went out and bought my family presents, and I couldn't wait to give it to them. And also, I couldn't wait to see the reaction. And half the reaction was the fact that you didn't need to do that. You're only 10, whatever. You shouldn't be doing this. I forget what I bought then. They were knickknacks, but I loved the feeling. That started that. So maybe the habit.
Maybe.
Which is also a big part of listening and learning from someone like yourself. And also on that, as a successful man in business, there's so much that's made about, if you're going to be, successful as an entrepreneur, a CEO, you get up at 4 a.m, you've run a marathon, you've read a book, and so on by 8 o'clock. Where do you stand with that?
My stock mindset, which is not what I actually do, is as Jeff Bezos says, right, which is, 8 hours sleep every single night. Your job's only to answer like 4 really important questions in the day. So make sure the mind is cleansed. I actually should work my backside off the entire time. I'll start at 7 and go all the way through. But personal training 2 or 3 times a week, that's critical.
You make the time for that.
I have to, because that releases stress. Okay, so that sort of gets you pumped up, gets you focused, and whatnot else. But I'm a massive advocate as well for mental health. I call them, I think there's a lot of misalignment in this space. So I have therapists who I actually call coaches, because I believe that whilst my PT is my coach, right, I just don't see the difference between a therapist or a coach for one's brain. So you have coach. So there's a great TV show, right? Billions. Yeah. And he has this great right hand lady who is his mental coach. So everything's coming from here. We're not actually making business decisions with our muscles, right? And so therefore keeping one's mind in its optimum shape, or like poise, focus, that's what I believe is really, really important.
So your physical workouts are more for the way you are feeling and the mental side of things, and to try and be muscly and strong and so on. It's all about keeping yourself mentally fit.
I mean, I wish I was like muscly and strong. Yeah, that's the body, that's like stress busting, and then equally mindset.
Yeah.
Because, and this is talked about, it's almost seen as a derogatory thing to say, I have a therapist, but also called a counselor.
Yeah.
But I'm not embarrassed by that. Because from
which is really refreshing as well. Especially 2 guys having a conversation where I might talk about the fact that I had a personal training session yesterday and I've got sore legs from it and so on, but I might not be brave enough to say I'm actually really struggling with my relationship or business or my mental health, and share that with you. And I'm actually having help from that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I have a CEO coach, and then I have another coach for something else. And I just think it's incredibly powerful. I probably have a slight bugbear with one of the references that you mentioned, especially with social media and things at the moment. Gosh, that must be so hard for younger people. Having been there actually and seen all of this spam on socials, I have an issue with socials, but I have an issue with fakery.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if somebody's pretending they're living this life, that is really, really toxic, because other young people around the world are looking and being inspired by that life. And there's a lot of these people who have these lives, and then that young person looks and wants to have that life, but it might just actually not be possible for them to do that for whatever circumstances, but that life might not actually be real.
Yeah.
So if that life's not real, that puts the young person on the same level. And if it's faking it, and it's causing mental illness for the young person because they're doubting themselves and they can't be, all these holidays and boats and planes and all this stuff, but they actually just took a picture of themselves outside somebody else's plane.
Yeah.
That's causing an absolute huge drive in the mental health problems that we have today.
Yeah, you've articulated it really well. And actually something else, it could actually be plane's extreme. It could be that it's your plane, you take a picture of it. But what you're not saying is you've been up since 5 dealing with issues and something legal that's come up that you've got that whole actual share everything, and actually you're sitting here now in a position where so many people in place could be plastering stuff all over social, which would inspire some people and also almost demotivate others. And yet, you won't mind me saying, before we were filming, he was like, "Can I just have 5 more minutes to finish the call?" Which is the world I live in as well, right? It's real life business.
It is.
But so many people want to do that whole Insta photo. Look at me on my boat. Look at me with my Lamborghini. Where do you sit with that? Because you've said it in one way, but you've got the success and the business kind of trappings that go with it to show that off. Is there a part of you that actually, because I think you'd be an amazing mentor, I think you'd be an amazing person in that space to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. So at what point does Oliver Chapman come into that space in a way that's relatable? Because right now, everything you said is relatable.
Yeah.
But you've taken yourself out of that one because you're busy. It's not a priority. But also because certain other people that are, not us, are sort of blighting that social media space. Feels like you'd be amazing in that, and to have that mentoring as well.
Well, there's a few things I pick up on that question. So, actually, number one, OCI is at its infancy. This isn't success.
I was going to ask you where the trajectory
That's not success.
is.
We're at the very start of a very, very long story, and I don't think I'll ever finish this story until they're the last days. Running a business requires absolute dedication, failures and more failures still. I'm a massive advocate for, when people ask me, okay, so what's the secret to success? My answer is literally getting back up again. And then how you get back up is super important. So falling, hurting yourself, rising, but learning, that's critical. And I don't think that's portrayed very much on social media. And the true life of a business person or somebody who's interested in growing a company is just sweat, blood, sweat, and tears. Persistence, yes, determination. So just keep driving, keep pushing.
Yeah.
Even through the high times, right? Because with business, and then we may be going off slightly, but this is helpful for other people perhaps. But in business, you'll have high times and lows, and it kind of goes like that, and hopefully it continues going in that direction. But it's important to keep riding even on the highs and keep grinding, because it can be fun, right, to have some success and the business go well for a bit. But if you take your foot off the gas, when the low time comes, then you can fall down with it. So you need to keep driving to create that linear curve.
It's awesome. And actually, I can relate to that. I'm talking to you now because I got complacent. I hate to admit it. I was cookie cutting with a business that had been successful and was replicating 3-4 years. I pulled back. Thought it was motoring, political, external events. However COVID affected everyone, that was a key thing for me. In my property world, Grenfell Tower, if I had stayed right on it and maybe had a barometer for pivoting, for understanding certain political movements that were going to change 100%, that advice is golden. And that's a big part of my sort of armory moving forward, but I learned it the hard way.
Yeah.
So you sharing that is so important. You've got to stay on it.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, sort of being mature for my age, right? Just sort of skipping slightly back to that, but then bringing it back to what you just said.
Yeah, but you started at 2, slightly
Yeah,
different.
I was just going to say, so yeah, when you're doing imports from a really, really young age, I actually I remember a conversation actually with a supplier, and I was in Italy. I used to have to lie about my age to people, not because I lied, but because they wouldn't believe me if I said how old I was. So,
and maybe a certain amount of credibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I was sort of 23, 24, doing sort of large-ish ticket transactions, I was exporting 200 containers a week at one point of product. So, for a 22, 23-year-old person, that was like a lot to handle. So when I was in a business meeting, I used to say, I was like, I'm high 20s, nearly 30. But I was actually young 20s. But that maturity and that experience has taught what you just said about sort of becoming complacent, high times and low. And it's just very essential to understand that it's not ever going to be easy.
No. You've also touched on something else as well, which I really like, is that you've clearly got a direction with OCI where you're just getting started, but you're focusing on the journey. Sitting here right now, how would you describe success?
Success would be a happy family, a loving family, and a tight-knit family. A happy team, a tight-knit team who genuinely get on with great corporate culture. Also, for me, would be being able to change the world as much as I can on a best efforts basis. and hopefully leave the world from a sustainable perspective and also from a charitable perspective a better place.
And in terms of, you've almost kind of answered it, in terms of achieving that and the sort of vision you've got for OCI and then Oliver Chapman, what's the ultimate goal?
This differs a lot with other people because our company we've never taken external investment in, right, and done that whole fundraising.
It's quite unusual.
Thing. Yeah, it's very unusual. I run the business in a totally different mindset. I run it old school, basically, low overheads, not a massive team. Yeah, like run it more like a fund model, but like sort of 40 people worldwide style, but not doing this explosive growth.
Sure.
And
so you grown it organically.
Yeah, organic growth, which is ironic considering to be the fastest growing company. It's kind of interesting. Maybe that's the key to it. I don't know. But I look at a lot of businesses, and a lot of businesses can be actually partners or clients of ours, and they think that this exponential growth, which is literally bucket loads of money into staffing and expansion, is the way to go. But I think steady Eddie wins the race. But what that creates, in order to answer your question, is a very sort of long-term trajectory for the business, which will keep expanding and doesn't just sort of have like massive peaks and troughs.
Mm.
And so, yeah, I mean, look, OCI will be the supply chain and procurement partner that is noticed around the world for basically turning companies into absolute machines that can grow and be very successful. But it will do that with old school techniques.
Yeah, which is the best way. And where does AI fit into this?
I think you're a bit aware, but we're actually forming a relationship at the moment, and we agreed verbally at this stage, subject to contract, but with an amazing organization called Kudo, and they've become an NVIDIA partner. They've got all the tech and the knowledge. It's an incredible company with great systems. And we have this supply chain knowledge. So the concept there is what actually OCI's business model is. You guys do what you're good at. We're good at supply chain, sourcing, logistics, finance, commercial negotiations, figuring all the complex sort of corporate world out.
Sure.
Leave that to us. We'll create the growth. You guys have your amazing product. You run a great business and keep doing that. And then that's how we'll shoot you right up into the stratosphere.
That's exciting.
And we've done that time and time again, like proven track record.
Ollie, I know how busy you are.
Yeah.
So many things you're involved in. So thank you for making time to talk to me today. It's fascinating. And good luck with everything in the future.
Oh, thanks very much, John.
Cheers, Oliver.
Good to chat. All the best.
Cheers.